Well, hey everyone. I know there's folks that are still joining, but welcome everyone. My name is Doug Cleary. I'm the Director of Sales here at GoTab. GoTab, for those who may be joining us first time, we're an entertainment commerce platform that helps put the guests at the center of the customer ordering experience. We power a lot of the technology behind the scenes of your favorite F&B locations, entertainment, brew pub, tap rooms, sports and recreation venues, and then operators small and large. Our technology includes point of sale, kitchen display screens, kiosks, QR code ordering, you name it. And ultimately, what we're here for is it's our pleasure to be getting together with our friends from Pour Tap Room and iPort. We're going to share a little bit about how we're helping enhance the customer experience and putting a little bit more of that technology and that power in the hands of the guest. And with that, I'll kick it over to our partner in crime here, Darren from iPort. Darren?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Well, my name's Darren Nicholson, and I run sales and marketing for iPort. iPort has been in the business of automated beverage dispense since 2012, and through that, through that time, because we collect the data for the people or the guests who use the system, we've served over 25 million guests in our operators. We've poured over 400 million ounces through our system, and to put that into perspective, that's 25 million pints of beer. So you can kind of get a sense of the volume of product that has gone through our technology. And with the top line gross revenues of our operators, we've helped them generate over 300 million through the iPort tech. With our technology, more sales, high gross margins, there is some labor savings, which we're going to talk about. And then, of course, keg yield is really important with automated beverage dispense. So anyway, iPort is very proud to be here at Midtown. This is Pour Tap Room. Just a quick introduction. Raymond Ballister and John Kim are co-owners of Pour Tap Room. We happen to be sitting in Midtown in Atlanta, and I think there's 75 taps in here? 85 taps. And they also have a location that is in the Beltline, which is here in Atlanta. I believe they have around same 85 taps there. They have a partner location that is in Gainesville, and they're going to be opening a location with a partner down in Jacksonville, Florida here shortly. So I'm going to just kind of go through just some agenda items. Raymond and John are kind of going to tell their story and what is Pour Tap Room. They're going to talk a bit about how iPort and GoTab integrate to make their locations successful. We're going to talk a bit about future developments in self-service and how they're utilizing that in Midtown versus Beltline. We're going to talk about some, pros and cons of certain point of sale integrations versus what we're working on with GoTab, and then some of the learnings that they've had through their experience. And then I think we're going to be able to open it up for a few questions. So I'm going to introduce you, Raymond and John. I'm going to let you guys talk about your story.
Thanks, Darren. Appreciate you guys. Yes, everybody. Name's Ray, Ramon Ballister. Ray, I go by, and my business partner, John Kim, and dear friend and friend of the family for sure. We opened our first location here in Atlanta in 2019. Our exposure to this was as a licensee originally, and John and I ended up acquiring the brand outright in 2021. Opened our Beltline location in 2019. We expanded over here to Midtown, and then we've gotten involved in some other opportunities, as you talked about in Gainesville, some table service stuff and some other food and beverage concepts as well. Lots of experience with different points of sale through our journey. When we started in 2019, we were using a different actual technology for self-serve dispense that we ended up pivoting away from in 2020, and that's when our relationship with iPort was established. Through that, relationship over the last several years. We've transitioned between 5 different points of sale and multiple locations and different service models as well. We'll get into the technical aspects or some more of the operational stuff. John will lead off that portion of the conversation as the Chief Operations Officer of the company. He's got his hands involved in all of the different locations, but very long relationship, and with iPorrit, it's a lot of different experience with different technology and service models, and we're pleased with the GoTab and iPorrit integration thus far. We think it's the most robust that we've seen in an ever-changing technology environment. And that'll turn it over to John.
Can I
Thank you,
ask,
guys.
before you
Yeah.
go, John, can I just ask a quick question?
Sure,
Go
go ahead.
one of the things that we think about with integrations is, they're disparate systems, right? You're doing a food menu, plus you're doing a self-serve system with iPorrit. How are you using the integration or the technology here in Midtown versus possibly in Beltline? How are you using GoTab and iPorrit?
Well, GoTab kind of, well, for both locations, though we're a matter of 5, maybe 10 miles.
3.2 miles.
Okay, 3.2 miles away. The locations operate very differently, and clientele is very different, and our peak times are very different. And so we really look for a system that could bridge the differences in those two operations. And but at the same time, on a staff or operational level, we could tell and train and guide our staff members to run it as if there's no difference, right? And so again, our Beltline location, peak hours, weekend, it's very weather dependent, and the Beltline is very centric for for just transit, but also for leisure. And so, in the realtors in Atlanta liken it to beachfront property in Atlanta. So it's very popular, very sought after. And our peak times are obviously the weekends when people are out and about enjoying themselves. And we have up to at any point 400 open tabs, with about maybe 20-25% of those being people that have dropped them off and left, and then the rest of them being live tabs that are still being pinging the iPorrit system. So we needed a system that could handle the volume without having any sort of latency in that. And because again, the center of this is customer experience. How fast can we get them in? How fast can we get them out? And everything in between is how fast can we deliver, the product that they're purchasing onto their tabs without any hiccups. Whereas Midtown is very corporate centric. We know our peak times based on the events that we're going to have. Obviously, the type of events that are held here in Midtown, and so we know the volume that we're going to get. Whereas Beltline is almost, you're looking for good weather, looking for all these things to kind of happen for us to wow, we're going to get crushed today. Midtown is very it's expected based on what we have coming up. But here, any event could be to 10 up to, I think we've had 200 open tabs for an event at one time. We need to be able to make sure that the data is live. We need to make sure the data is accurate, and we need to make sure that customers are enjoying the Salesforce system through the use of our POS system on setting up CEOs or banquet checks, and then exiting those banquet checks at an appropriate time.
So it's
And I
interesting
have a-
because obviously,
Sorry to interrupt. Just curious, can you talk about like what the guest experience is? from walking in to getting set up with tab?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Beltline is very much a think of it as like your sports tavern. So a high volume of guests walking in, checking in at a central kiosk, a central point of sale system right at the front. And it is very much tap wall heavy. We do have a food program there that really only makes up in its current state about 20% of the total operations over there. That is our Beltline operation, again, more tavern related. Here at Midtown, as John indicated, very focused on both events, and it is a American fare, like your standard American fare restaurant in the Midtown area. So we have incorporated the QR code ordering system here that is provided by GoTab. Prior to that, it was, either counter service or depending upon the speed of the day, so that nimbleness that we get with the GoTab system, we can still have customers coming in, checking in at the front counter, ordering like counter service style. But if it's a little bit slower, and in order to improve the guest experience, we can transition to that table service mindset, and having our staff being able to interact with the guests, being again flexible depending upon how busy the operation is. So very different models as it relates to our tap room on the Beltline as well as here.
Thank you.
Raymond, I wanted to ask you, how did you and John get into this space, get into this business? Well, and are these things that you've run into, were these problems that you anticipated, or were these things that were, just kind of growing pains of learning a new operation? Are you seasoned operators? Tell us a little bit about your background.
So I started in automation sales, and it was really in the factory format of the laundry divisions of like Hotel, Cintas, Aramark, and I really enjoyed how technology can be put into, I guess, a work environment for efficiencies, obviously for reduction in overhead, and what it equates to again is that customer experience. Who is providing this service, and can we make it as efficient and as pass through as possible for these operators and these people purchasing the service. And so I got to a point where I just said, you know what, I'd like to do something on my own. Started looking around, stumbled upon something that I enjoy, which is beer, as well as automation. And in my mind, I always felt like this part of this industry was always going to evolve into this at some point. And along the way, I met this gentleman here, very unknowing of what he was trying to get himself into. But our goals and the way we looked at things aligned. And I think we just took a shot in the dark on each other and said, let's do this together. The first location was by far the hardest. Just agreeing to one location was our biggest hurdle, and then how to get it up and open and operating. But as we kind of went along this road, we were able to come into understand some of the players that are already in this industry, like iPort, and we got to see how their system functions and how it would integrate into our operations and make it even better. And then later on down the line, GoTab, with a recommendation from Darren, said you should take a look at this POS, because he knew we were having such trouble finding this system that would integrate and enhance our overall operations and concept for the customers.
Yep, I had no experience, zero. And came into the industry, not have had no clue what was going on. John, actually, he undersells himself. He has a lot of food and beverage experience from the past as well. So he's certainly the brains of the day-to-day operations and everything as, for keeping everything efficient and tight. But I came into this retired from another another occupation, and now, you know, just again, alignment of goals, alignment of incentives as really, you know, taken this relationship to, you know, since 2017, really. It's been
Yep.
great. So that's how we got together.
He's
Very cool.
earned his badges in the restaurant industry.
So
So-
that's good, good.
So going back to this disparate, right, part of, and I know how you operate in both locations. So the key thing with the iPort system is there's an RFID that's programmed for each one of your guests, right? And the process of programming that RFID or checking that RFID in requires you to go through kind of some additional steps,
Yeah,
right?
right.
So, you know, I know how you operated with previous point of sale systems. There was, you know, there was a check-in process here with your transaction. And then there was a check-in process here for your RFID, so the iPort system could work for that guest. I mean, there's some changes with GoTab that has
Yeah.
allowed you to be
Yes.
more effective.
Yeah, for sure. Our experience, you know, we utilize just a straight, just the iPort system, nothing else. Obviously, you know, that was a fairly quick, a quick process for checking in a guest, but we've used some other enterprise style points of sale system that, you know, what you end up dealing with, and, you know, not to get too technical, I'm sure the GoTab guys, you know what I'm talking about here, but there's a lot of latency that you can end up dealing with when you're having different servers talking to each other, particularly when one system is cloud-based and other one's not cloud-based, you know, whether you're housing the server on premise or whether you're housing it off premise. So for us, you know, with the Beltline model, like we've talked about, our operations are very, very different between here and at Beltline. Speed was critical for that window of time when you're checking in your guests for the big UGA game or something like that, and checking them out, just being able to process transactions as quick as possible. And we've had some experience with points of sale where you're talking about 30 to 45 seconds of interacting with the customer, you know, taking a credit card, handing the credit card back, checking the ID, scanning the ID, handing it back, and all of those steps just compound when you're talking about two systems having to talk to one another. And then when that data is being shared, that's really where the latency happens. When you're taking that credit card, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but you stick that credit card into the credit card machine, and when it's taking 15 to 20 seconds to process the entire transaction as it's going through its journey, you know, to try and capture the data from the tap wall and introducing that into the point of sale, bogs it down, and then it gets us into a position where you just have a line out the wall, out the door, which, I mean, there's some benefits to that, obviously, when you're talking about, you know, the impression for the guests, but you want to be able to check people in and out as quick as possible. So that for us was with the GoTab iPort integration, you know, we've gone from like an enterprise style server to, okay, we're no longer using that point of sale. Let's go to another cloud-based system, like, you know, the other standard ones that are in the market, and you get a little bit of improvement, but you're still having those two systems side by side,
Right.
where you're having to introduce an additional step. And whereas GoTab, as you know, the iteration that we've incorporated has really consolidated all of that into one step for our staff, in order to expedite that transaction process for us.
To add to that a little bit, I think along this journey is Ray and I have come to find that integration is a broad term. You know, because we constantly went with the approach of, are you fully integrated with iPort? You know, as we interviewed, as we demoed, as we sought out the right POS partner. And, you know, out of the gate, I think most everybody said, yes, we are fully integrated, you know, and without understanding what full integration means with iPort, operator owners, POS, and then ultimately the customer. So it took us five tries. But we finally got to this point where we're like, okay, you know, the GoTab works fairly, probably I would say 85 to 90% of the time fully integrated with this iPort system, where we're not looking for side by side. We're not having to add multiple steps and multiple, I guess, stress points for staff members or customers. Because as owner operators, what we look for is we need our people freed up to go and be the bartender without tending that bar, right? It's a saying that I like to tell all my staff members: be the bartender without tending the bar, tend to the customer. And all this free time has actually allowed our staff members to go out and do that. And that's really the value that we see in incorporating GoTab into this operation.
So
And John,
it's- yeah, it's-
oh, sorry, Darren, if I can just add to that, because I think that's a really important point that you're bringing up, John. You're talking about you're, as an efficiency guy, you're trying to figure out ways to reduce friction, right? And you're trying to figure out the ways to ease that customer experience. For a lot of the folks that are on here, they might be operating a similar concept to yourselves. They might be thinking about it. They might be, have various types of food and beverage experience. Can you maybe just share a little, like, what did that process look like? Where was the friction points before, and how have you been moving in a direction that you feel is more positive to, both the customer, but also as yourselves as operators?
I hear what you're saying. So talking to some other peers that we have in the industry, everybody, the consensus tends to be that, all points of sales are they have like the handful of things that they're really good at, and then there's things that they're not good at. And then a different point of sale company is a little bit more, has got those things licked, but doesn't have a different element necessarily squared away. For us, what we've recognized with GoTab, with those friction points, is that again, the crucial one for us was certainly the speed of transaction. And then when John was alluding to earlier with the full integration, that means more than just the initial transaction with the guest. It's also the data on the back end. We've had different points of sale that we've utilized where we were unable to capture that very valuable customer demographic information to help us tailor our marketing efforts and stuff like that. So again, it's more than just on the front end there. With what we've experienced thus far with GoTab, we've had the ability to kind of scale, I guess, if that's the right way to describe it, scale our operation or introduce the different functionality that GoTab provides as our model changes. As a specific example, here at our Midtown location, with a robust food menu, a robust American fare food menu, we've transitioned to utilizing the QR code system for allowing guests to order, which again, if my staff member doesn't have to be standing at a kiosk taking an order, they can be more engaging with the customers, bussing tables, running food, and doing things that are a little bit more efficient for us, while the guest goes ahead and utilizes their QR code to take that order. The next step is to expand that QR code use to the rest of the building. We're on the corner of Main and Main in Midtown Atlanta, and in the King and Spalding building, which is the Empire State Building of our small city, and being able to utilize the point of sale to grow our operation and to expand our ability to serve guests when, hey, maybe we're not busy during a Monday afternoon because nobody, there isn't a lot of people walking around downtown. But if guests in the building can order, and it fires that ticket directly to the kitchen, we know, okay, hey, this is a food order, this is a burger and fries that needs to go to the 5th floor. That's something that we are already starting to incorporate, and just expanding our envelope with that, which is great. Where we needed to utilize 2 different POS systems before to achieve that same level of service. Utilizing one point of sale that's completely independent of our internal operations here in order to capture the customer experience that exists outside of our space. And GoTab's like, no, we got it. And, it just puts it right on the same menu, the same QR code goes to the same menu, and more importantly, it fires to the same ticket in the kitchen. So the only difference is now, instead of that food getting run to table number 10, it's getting run to, again, the 5th floor.
Right.
So does that answer your question? Kind of a little bit of a dovetail there, but
No,
points and-
100%. And you're hitting a lot of the points that a lot of operators that we talk with bring up, because in a way, it's kind of odd because we're kind of anti POS in a way. Like a lot, when people are thinking about what POS is really supposed to be standing for, it's supposed to be point of sale. So what we're really doing is we're taking that traditional, if you want the traditional point of sale, then you can use it that way. But it's more migrated away from the big clunky screens of the legacy systems, and now you can put it into the power of the hands of the everyday guest. And especially for this type of concept, with being able to self-pour, the partnership with iPorit and being able to help control your guest experience and having that be, part of that and part of that customer journey is one of the things that we've seen our operators and the guests who use both these systems together like the most. Darren, have you from your experience with working with all, with these guys here, but just in general, have you seen kind of the same need for there being more mobile friendly and kind of like taking that ownership and that experience on the guest side? Oh, Darren, can you hear us?
To Darren, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that, I mean, with the GoTab integration, we keep talking about full integrations versus maybe not as powerful or robust integrations. The guest, their experience is one that if they fly through the process, then they're happy. Once they hit a sticking point or some kind of hurdle that they have to go through, that's when it becomes an issue. So, and I've been in this business for quite some time, and I've used other point of sale systems. I've used our point of sale system. I understand the GoTab system, and I see those hurdles being taken away for your guest. And especially when you now start talking about the QR codes and being able to fire orders right from any one of these tables and from the people that are sitting upstairs, that's very powerful. And I think it's important that as an operator, you think about all of those other, we've talked about it, other service opportunities that you could be utilizing in your business to increase your volume.
Yeah, we definitely, that obviously certainly an important component in this post-COVID world, being able to just find different avenues to generate revenue, which has been important for us. The agnostic perspective that GoTab has with hardware is great for us, especially having experience utilizing 5 different points of sale system. It's wonderful to be able to reutilize a printer, for instance, something like that. It really does show a desire to just be as nimble as possible. And again, with being able to isolate down the motions that our staff members have to do to get a better quality utilization of that staff member to be engaging with the guests, as opposed to necessarily just processing stuff at a point of sale.
You brought something up in previous discussions, and that is you need the system to operate it when it's the sweet spot, and that is when your location's full of people. That's when this automation really shines. And my question to you is, as you look at automation, especially around the self-serve and the point of sale, what type of developments do you hear about, or are you seeing anything that is coming into focus as far as new service and new opportunities for this, these systems?
Well, before we go to kind of new products, new services,
okay.
things like that, to a point you said about making the process, just super simple for your customers, your end users, right? I would say, this is still, iPorit is still on the very forefront of food and beverage automation. And I say that because there's not a lot of people that are, they may have heard it, they may have seen it, hopefully they have experienced it, but it's a very small population.
Correct.
And what do we want to do as business owners? We want to grow our business, and we do that by way of bringing these people that have never experienced or never seen this type of automation in a restaurant, and making it so simple that they immediately, that first interaction, I'm hooked. I'm hooked,
Mhm.
right? Why don't I have this in my home? That's what so many people say to me as I introduce them to the system. Our older demographic, clientele, they're opposed to it. And when I tell them, do you have a smartphone? They say yes. So this is even easier than a smartphone. So, that's our goal, right? You, I, and GoTab. It's our goal to introduce this automation to just as many people as possible. And we can only do that and achieve that by making it as simple as possible for people. When it comes to products, I think, along with POS, we've really evolved in what we serve, just based on trends that we see, that we experience, working with our distribution partners and understanding what trends they're seeing out in the market. We've expanded everything from craft cocktails. We started out testing the waters with 2 or 3 craft cocktails, and now I think we're up to 6 to 8 taps at each of our locations on providing craft cocktails, things that are 2, maybe 3 touch cocktails that we can batch ourselves, because again, there's not a lot out in the market where you can get a cocktail in a keg. The new thing, or maybe not very new, but something that's on the rise has been CBD, Delta 8, Delta 9 hemp derived products. People, as we all in the alcohol business know, have, the younger kind of generation they're not so alcohol focused as maybe we were at one point, but they do look for alternatives just because they are out in that social environment. So we've expanded there. When it comes to
Hey,
food,
John, can I ask you, John, was the expansion into those different types of products directly from feedback that you got from customers, or was that research, a combination of the two? Like, what's been the way that you guys have been able to gather feedback in the self-service model?
It's definitely been a combination.
Yeah, it's certainly a combination of them. For us, the challenge is your distributors and your vendors are going to, whether or not they're going to provide something in keg really just depends on whether or not they're moving it in volume and package. So the ABC laws in different states are all vastly different. We're dealing with different animal in our Jacksonville opening than necessarily we deal with here in the Georgia market. So being able to expand and offer that broad range of products, we have, John has said this before, usually when he's talking to when he's talking to his staff when they're onboarding, each one of these tabs is a point of sale. Each one of these tabs here is an opportunity for us to, put a product in front of a customer's face and utilize it to generate revenue. So why not have a smattering of options that, if you do go out with a group of friends, we don't want the lone alcoholic coming into a restaurant. You want people who are drinking socially and stuff like that. And some people don't, imbibe. Some people want non-alcoholic beverages. Some people want other offerings. So being able to provide a smattering of options that really can cater to that group of friends who come in to watch a ball game on a Saturday or Sunday night is important. So it really is just us, great, having 20 IPAs on that's great. Okay. But are we really moving 20 IPAs worth of product, or are we only moving 15, kegs worth of IPA during that window of time? So how can we get a little bit more efficient use out of those extra 5 taps? It's, hey, maybe let's not run 20 IPAs, maybe let's run 15 IPAs. And oh, by the way, we've got these CBD beverages that we can put on that just provide another sale opportunity for us
Yep.
to generate, to have something interesting for a guest who isn't necessarily interested in beer. Craft beer is just like any other industry. It has its ebbs and its flows and its business cycles. And, you want to be able to utilize the system to the max extent practical, and keeping all of these taps moving product. 80 taps, 85 taps is a
Yeah.
lot of taps. Can you be more efficient with a smaller footprint? Perhaps. So then be efficient with your offerings, and then expand into another group of offerings there. Where I see self-serve on the customer side, so that's from the operational perspective, and just what in our offerings. But the other element, and I would consider this more a challenge to the self-serve industry, is as everything goes to automation right now, and the writing is on the wall with that, really figuring out ways to enhance the customer's experience so that they feel like they are not just walking into a laundromat, right? I think that the laundromat is the ultimate in automation, and there's no human interaction whatsoever. And then where you have your white tablecloth fine dining 7-course meal restaurant, where it's nothing but waiter service, and and the napkin draped across their arm, and serving you the bottle of wine. And you want to find that sweet spot of, hey, how can we get as efficient as possible with our team, but making sure that that team is actually engaging with the people. So I think the challenge for self-serve, as to a roundabout way to get to your point, is really looking how to enhance the customer experience with the people that you have, and giving the guests the reason to come back, as opposed to just, again, thinking of it as
Novelty.
as a novelty. Yeah.
We have this, event tonight, and we're gonna talk a little bit about how important that marketing and event, staff is to a business like yours. Going back to efficiencies, right? And you've had experience with another self-pour platform with a different point of sale. And then you have an experience with iPourIt, with the iPourIt POS. And then you went through maybe 3 iterations after that before going to GoTab. Labor, through that period of time has become more expensive, and it's harder to find. How have you seen the labor effect, and how have you been able to use the technology to even be better?
Well, when Ray and I first set out and understanding what automation does for an operation, we set out the gates as lean as possible. Again, putting a lot on the staff to learn and understand how to bridge this gap of traditional, whether it's counter service or full service, and having this automation within your operations. So, we've always started out very lean. One thing I see operators that are going into the self-serve, industry, is they treat it very much so like they're going to staff this like either a traditional QSR or full service. What's the need? So for us, what GoTab has done for us, we've always held a very hard stance on keeping our labor footprint as lean as possible. All right. What it's done is freed up time for our staff, our lean staff, to be able to check people in or check people out as quickly and efficiently as possible, so that I could say, oh, let me go tend to this person who looks confused walking around on the tablet. That's what GoTab has done for us, so that customers can feel comforted with a skilled staff member coming up and saying, what would you like to drink? What style of beer do you want to start with? Then evolving that conversation down the line with how to actually use the system. All that makes for a very good experience upon checkout, when everything is very seamless with the execution from the POS side.
From the, from the, the experience side on the, from the staff perspective, the efficiencies or the staffing, it really for us, you spend more time on the back end. I think that's probably, as we're looking at our operation and when we're trying to make our comparison between how things function here at Midtown and how they function different at Beltline, you spend a greater amount of time on the back end, prepping for, that high volume time. Remember, we talked about already here, that sweet spot, everything in our Beltline operation is, like John mentioned, it's weekend focused, but it's not just weekend focused. It's weekend focused from this time to this time. And all of our labor really goes into prepping for that day, and that 3 or 4 hour window is making sure that we're not kicking kegs during that window, making sure that the lines are clean, making sure that if there's any maintenance on some taps that need to be conducted or what have you, we're getting that sorted out, making sure that our ordering and our replacing our inventory is all tailored towards that one window, because that's where you're going to get the most efficient use out of the system, to the max extent that we can. As well as our people. Yeah. So it is really taking the time. Maybe it's, I would say, shifting the labor as opposed to needing us to just necessarily, like John talked about, staffing QSR or staffing table service up front. It's like, maybe the labor savings, you can save a lot by cutting that in half, but maybe we're just going to pivot those people over to sustaining the back end of the operation. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. People are very important to this, to your success, right? Your labor is very important. This system isn't just you set it up and you let people just go use it. You recognize that. And I see in a lot of locations that GoTab is in for iPorit, it does allow your people to be face-to-face with your guests and have that one-on-one or that personal experience with them. Even with the QR codes, it's nice because when you order food, they come out and deliver the food. They get to have a discussion or at least some face-to-face with your guests. I think that's really important. Doug, do you have any other?
I'm always curious
items?
about, sure, I'm always curious about how operators that are using self-pour technology find a balance between that service element and the, that guest interaction. And what I kind of took away was that you found that it does actually gives the staff more opportunity to have less time at the terminal and more time at the table, so to speak. What are the lessons that you've kind of learned going through that process, and how do you feel like you've applied this?
Well, I mean, we all know that we're in the service industry, so it tends, you tend to have a lot of people that maybe show up initially because it's a summer job or something like that, or in transit between other career-minded occupations that they were running. So certainly, focusing on finding the right team, and everybody knows, anybody who's opened a restaurant knows the turnover that you go through. It takes a lot of turnover to find that quality individual. It just does. It's just the nature of the business. And then when you find them, you desperately try to hold on to them and make sure that, everybody's meeting each other's needs there. What I think is important for any other operator that is maybe thinking about going into the space, or utilizing GoTab and iPorit for their integration, is you're going to get a lot of efficiency. Both companies went out of their way to really kind of start from the ground up and say, how do we make this transaction happen as quickly as possible, as seamless as possible, and to allow that transaction time to be minimized. And you guys have, again, from our experience with the 5 different POSs / self-serve tap integrations that we've come up with, there has been a focus of effort. There's been a concerted effort between both companies to really try to dial that in, and it's evolving. You know, I've met with Flynn. We've talked about different ways that we want to see improvements on the tap wall, and that's great. And having a nimble system that's able to incorporate those changes as quick as possible is rare. I think probably becoming less rare as we are in a software, software society now. Those changes can be made quicker, but it does seem like there's a heavy effort being put on for both companies there. For us, I think that, so we talked about what's useful between the integration between both systems, and we do think it's robust. The relationship is robust there. For the operator, it's finding the creative way to make sure that your guest experience is enhanced by the automation and not just turned into a, because the flip side of that we talked about from the technology perspective is one thing, but then if you can get so efficient with your operation that you end up having a staff member standing at the kiosk on Instagram, just kind of sitting there because they're, not really doing anything. So it's really incumbent upon the operator to be ensuring that you create a culture in your restaurant of customer service. It's the only thing that's going to bring people back. The tap wall's cool. It's a lot of fun. It's efficient, and it does wonders for you when you're working in a high volume operation like our Beltline location, or when you're doing a 200-person banquet and everybody's coming in and you want to lean staff the bar and still be able to provide interactions or be able to provide guests to your beverages in that environment. It's a great piece of technology, but if your team isn't there to really give a customer a reason to not just say, walked in there, didn't talk to anybody, somebody just pointed me in a general direction and then just said, have at it, you're going to run into some headwinds with your reviews.
Definitely.
Doug, I think at the end
That's
of the
right.
day, it's expectation that you set forth with your staff, and it's the appropriate training you provide your staff. And luckily, our staff, or most everybody's staff, are 20-ish, maybe 30-ish years old, and they liken to technology very quickly. So even though they don't want to learn, kind of all the nuances of self-pour and even the GoTab system, they take to it very quickly. So that's the one fortunate thing that we have is that we have that. Now we have to give it some foundation, some backbone, something for them to understand. Oh, why do I need to be out on the floor?
Mhm.
Why sit here behind the counter and just check people in? Well, that's great. Like Ray said, when there's nobody, I don't want you on your phone. I'd rather you be out there again, tending to the guest, and it all starts with expectations and training. And luckily training is pretty seamless when it comes to the younger generation.
Well, that's good, because the way I'm taking out of that, and what we hear a lot from other operators too, is that some of more of the younger staff might be a little bit more adept at technology, but they've kind of drawn back a little bit in their communication abilities. So some of the soft skills are some of the things that you got to really lean into and help them out with, and try to trial a little bit more. I'm also curious that, like, as you guys are expanding and you're going into new markets, are you seeing the same things, or like what's the plans for your growth into new markets, like, or new locations like Jacksonville? Does that keep the same culture and model, or do you see some pivots happen there and lessons learned?
Yeah, lessons learned for us, certainly, again, creating a unique experience for the guest is what's truly important. Our Jacksonville operator, Tony Draper, who owns the Jacksonville location, we're really focusing on that being an event venue. So he's got a stage that's going to be in there, be able to bring in live bands and stuff. Having we think the location is conveniently located essentially in the area to really draw people from in and around some of the different businesses that are around. We got the stadium nearby, but creating a basically a venue there that people want to be able to go to, you know, experience something, not just how they interact with the product that they're pouring off the wall. So,
Mhm.
really, you know, when John and I got into this, it was, you know, pretty basic. It was, let's take this cold dark shell and let's throw a beer cooler in the corner and then have at it. And you know, that's great. And you know, depending upon the environment that you're in, maybe that's all that you need. But you are going to run into your upper limit as far as revenue generating capability, unless you have some other things, you know, whether that is a different product offering, a different level of service offering, or spending money on entertainment, you know, like live entertainment or something, or things of that nature. So, we definitely have pivoted away from your basic just beer hall. We wanted to make sure that our venues that we open really have the entire customer experience in mind, and you know, having a quality food product that you're offering, having a good concept of how that entertainment is going to be thought through, making sure that the venue is appropriate for events, being able to capitalize on those events and the revenue that you can generate from those events, internal, not relying on external agencies to be able to facilitate, you know, helping you drive, you know, that banquet event order revenue up. You know, it gets really expensive when you start trying to bolt on external services and, you know, having food partnerships with, you know, the local restaurant next door or whatever. You know, everybody's got to make their margins. And just being nimble with that is really, really important. Making sure that, again, you have a business plan that is more than just the product that you're offering. If that makes sense. And so we
So-
focused on that heavily. And Tony's got a great plan in Jacksonville. It's going to be an awesome location. We're super excited for him to get open. And then that in concert with some of our other operations in our expansion into the food and beverage in different in different models, we'll be doing that in Jacksonville as well. So
Such a great call out, and just makes it more of a destination in that experience where you want to visit. Are you still finding that with 85 taps, and is our IPA still the top seller, or are you finding any surprises on the product side?
I'd say IPAs are still probably leading the pack. I mean, you know,
Miller Lite.
yeah, domestics have definitely, you know, come back, you know, I'd say maybe come back full circle from the introduction of craft breweries, you know, what, like early to mid 2000s. And, you know, obviously beer trends have definitely, it's been shook up but at the end of the day, beer is still going to be a preferred drink. And people are going to still seek out those unique flavors that, you know, only craft brewers can put out there. And so,
Cocktails has been big.
yeah, cocktails has grown quite a bit as well. You know, I think Ray and I have done a very good job when it comes to, you know, researching, identifying market trends, and you know, having a good pointed strategy in putting these new beverages or offerings out, whether it's on the food side or on the tap wall side. So, you know, but yeah, I don't think IPAs are going anywhere.
Yeah. You know, if we were just a beer hall, that, you know, 85 taps would certainly be too much, right? But now, you know, with our offerings, it's spread across so many different product lines, you know, from our craft cocktails that we build in house. Obviously, wines, you know, tend to be a product that nearly every self-serve tap room utilizes. Beers, ciders, our CBD beverages, seltzers. I mean, there's a lot that's out there right now, and it can really pare down that 80 taps. That sounds like a lot. And, you know, sometimes when you have a beer nerd who, you know, he sees 85 taps and he thinks, oh my goodness, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to go in and I'm going to try all these super cool, rare beers and what have you, and then they come in and then, you get a critique. It's like, well, I thought it was going to be more beer, and it's, and, I would love to satisfy that one guest. We'd love to satisfy him and have nothing but, 80 beers on for him, but that's not what everybody's into, and if you're trying to be flexible and nimble and provide something that is really tailored towards the demographic that's in your area, you want to be able to, again, serve that entire table of four that comes in and put something on the wall for them. So we like our number of taps, and particularly with the expansion with the broadening of our offerings. If we were just doing beer, we probably wouldn't do that many right now, but ask me again in 10 years and maybe it's all back to beer again. So
Yeah.
We have a few minutes left. Darren, I don't know if you had any other topics you wanted to cover or any closing remarks. First, I just want to say thank you, but I'll leave it to you, Darren, to wrap it up.
Okay. Were there any questions, Patricia?
I know we had talked a little bit about hardware as something is being a kind of a very easy way, the way GoTab and iPort address the hardware situation and being able to flex in that regard. So can you talk a little bit about, what does it, what that flexibility delivers for you, being able to run on, standards of a mobile phone, as for example?
sure. I mean, for us, again, like any operator, if you your fixed costs, your fixed assets can, those expenses can start to rack up. And when you have experience with 5 different points of sale system, that can be a very expensive experimentation process over time for sure. And the idea that you don't, the tablet's a tablet as far as GoTab is concerned. That's a really cool methodology. That's a really cool way of addressing the customer transaction interface, that customer transaction process. That a kitchen printer is a kitchen printer, as long as they can read the IP address on it and program the IP address on it. The GoTab team can figure out how to get that to work with with their system. The ability to remotely go in and wipe the slate clean, get your POS back up and running again is wonderful. If it degrades and we need to break out the phones, we can break out the phones. That's a really cool, nimble perspective. And again, if it saves us as the operator a couple $100 for every kitchen printer that we don't have to buy, that's value. There's real value to be had there. You still got to spend the time programming all of that, but the GoTab team, particularly in their onboarding, has been very thorough in working with John and I. John's set up another cloud-based point of sale system in one of our other operations, and then even the enterprise ones. It takes time, but if you don't have to spend money on extra hardware, that's great too. Now, obviously, stuff needs to be in good condition, but if you're able to repurpose something, mo better.
Awesome.
In addition to that, just the downtime that you experience with having hardware that's broken or not functional, rather than waiting on GoTab, 3-5 business days to get something shipped out to us, we're able to immediately pivot to what we have in our inventory and be live within, maybe a couple hours as opposed to a couple days.
Yeah.
So
That's critical, with your proprietary point of sale systems. When, something goes down, nobody wants to hold in inventory an extra $5,000 customer terminal, and that's unreasonable. And if it does go down, then you're talking however long it takes to FedEx that thing out, FedEx it back, and you're just incurring additional costs. Hey, John, I'll be right back. I'm going to Best Buy to go grab an Android, and I'll be right back. That's certainly, again, time is money. So.
No, that's amazing. Darren, you want to take us out?
Yeah, so first of all, I really appreciate you guys, spending your time with us today. Yeah. The one thing I have a lot of respect for you because you have gone through a number of iterations. You're smart business guys. You've been very successful and, listening to the experience you've had is very valuable to me and to I'm sure a lot of people out there as well. Thank you guys. Doug, thanks for your participation. Patricia, thanks for helping set this up. And we'll just say thank you and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
God bless.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.